Welcome to Rapture. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Justin M. Bailey. I'm a writer, one who just so happens to love video games more than anything, even more than the written word sometimes, and though I don't have much time to play games anymore, I like to sit down every now and then and make a video like this to help me remember all the good times I once had. Bioshock is just such a game for me, one of my favorites, and a very personal one at that, because I feel I was lucky enough to play it at the right place and the right time in life. It's not always the game itself, but rather the where and when we first experience a game that forever defines it for us. For example, Final Fantasy VII is my most favorite game of all time, something not very popular to say these days. But it is my favorite game of all time, not only because it was such a revolutionary JRPG, one of the most revolutionary ever put together, but because I was lucky enough to experience it at the right age and at the right time in my life. Middle school. Was there ever a time in life worse than middle school? Middle school's so bad even the bullies hate it. So yeah, I would say I was in the right place and the right time for a fantastic game, and that game for me just so happened to be Final Fantasy VII. Right place, right time, and luckily for me, lightning would strike twice because I was in the most perfect time for Bioshock too. When I first played Bioshock, I was 27 years old. I was working inside a prison. I used to be Officer Justin M. Bailey, and from 2007 to 2000 and yesterday, I was working a block, so yeah, right time for Bioshock. I had already seen a bunch of junkies fighting each other off over smack with a bunch of homemade weapons and a dilapidated colossus. Heck, I got paid money to live in Rapture. So what's prison like? It's just like middle school all over again. Except this one doesn't last for 2 years. It lasts for 25. And people actually wonder why I quit. As you can already guess, there are not many gamers in prison. At least not until I left. Now they're everywhere, but back in the day, it was just me and Officer Zax. And Officer Zax used to talk my ear off all the time about all the great games I should have been playing. You should be playing this, you should be playing that. And I had to turn him down left and right. I always felt bad for it, but I didn't have time for video games anymore. Even back then, I was trying to be a writer, and reading and writing was taking up all my free time. This went on for a while, game after game, and at one point I thought Zax had given up, but one day he came up to me and asked, had I ever heard of Ayn Rand? Ayn Rand? Ayn Rand? I honestly could not believe my ears. Ayn Rand was one of the last names I have expected to come up in prison. 50 Cent? Yeah. Glenn Beck, of course. But Friedrich Nietzsche, Mahatma Gandhi, or Ayn frickin' Rand? Not in a million years. Yeah, I've heard of her, I told him. Yeah, well, there's this game out called Bioshock, Zax said, based on some book she wrote called Atlas Shrugged. Do you know anything about any of this? Did I know anything about Ayn Rand? My God! Ayn Rand wrote my most favorite book of all time, The Fountainhead, a book that literally changed me forever, a book that after completing reading it, I started reading everything and anything I could get my hands on. I actually liked learning after reading The Fountainhead, so take that, public schools! I love Fountainhead to death, but I need to point out to everyone listening right now that Bioshock was not based off of The Fountainhead. It was based on her other book. Her much darker book, and in my eyes, her worser of the two. It was based off Atlas Shrugged. What can I say about Atlas Shrugged? I can say I don't like it very much at all. I can say it's the most one-sided argument I have ever read in my life, and I do not even consider it to be a story at all, but rather a glass of poison. A glass of poison from a very angry lady named Ayn Rand. Sadly, Atlas Shrugged is not really a book at all, rather a revenge job written against everyone, and I mean everyone. Everyone from the communists that took her home away from her back in Russia when she was just a little girl, all the way to the literary critics that poo-pooed and brushed her story off as some quaint little piece of architecture. My God, The Fountainhead was not about architecture. It was about the nature of man's soul. It was about the nature of man as Ayn Rand saw fit. It was about Ayn Rand's deepest, most personal thoughts, and to have it so heavily misunderstood, even after they made a movie about it, well, it kind of sent her off the deep end, and she spent the next 13 years, yes, the entire next 13 years, writing a book she wholeheartedly expected to change Western culture overnight. She expected to prove beyond the shadow of a doubt that her objectivist philosophy was 100% correct, but not only that, she wanted to ensure that she was never misunderstood again. How right she was. Ayn Rand would never be misunderstood again. That was for damn sure. What's Atlas Shrugged about? Well, why don't we have Andrew Ryan tell it for us?
I am Andrew Ryan, and I'm here to ask you a question. Is a man not entitled to the sweat of his brow? No, says the man in Washington, it belongs to the poor. No, says the man in the Vatican, it belongs to God. No, says the man in Moscow, it belongs to everyone. I rejected those answers. Instead, I chose something different. I chose the impossible. I chose Rapture.
That's it. That's all there is to it. I literally just saved you 1,100 pages. 1,100 pages where Ayn Rand beats you over the head with it, refusing to leave you any choice whatsoever but to agree with her. To join her. So yeah, in my opinion, Atlas Shrugged made for a terrible, mean-spirited book, but man alive, through Bioshock did it ever make an amazing game. One that actually proves beyond the shadow of a doubt what would happen to society if they implemented Ayn Rand's objectivist philosophy. And though an amazing game it may be, if there's one thing that will forever make Bioshock one of the most powerful and haunting games I've ever played, it's not the astounding atmosphere, the top-notch story, the excellent music choices, or how much I love killing big daddies. It's the choice this game forces you to make, and by the choice, you know exactly what I'm talking about.
No! 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 No!
Yes, that choice. This game actually makes you choose between increasing your slim chances of surviving Rapture or killing a sweet little innocent girl. Jimmy effing Christ! Is anyone out there horrified or astounded with the ramifications of putting this idea in a video game? And please, I'm begging you, do not bother telling me, Justin, it's just a game, bro. They're not real girls, bro. Because morality is far from fixed. I've seen this firsthand. Trust me, morality is an extremely slippery slope. And were this Poland, for example, in 1938, you could very well be arguing back to me, Justin, it's just a Jew, bro. Jews are not even real people, bro. Morality matters. What you choose for morality to be matters in life, and it also matters in video games. Rapture dares to present all this to us, and if that were not enough, it dares to ask the big question, what is a man? It dares to ask you, the gamer, what kind of a man are you? Or woman, perhaps. Now, most of us never get put in a situation where we have to find out what we're really made of, but some of us do, and some of us choose wrong. Trust me, I've made a lot of good money off those people. But how special is it that there's a game that gives us a taste of all this? How great is it that there's a game like this that gets all the wheels spinning in our head better than any college philosophy class ever could? Because these things matter. And the most remarkable thing of all very well may be that they actually put it all in a first-person shooter of all things. Think about it for a sec. A first-person shooter is teaching you existentialism and philosophy. That's literally like a porno movie showing you the merits of Jesus Christ. It defies all logic whatsoever. Just like a city below the sea. The city below the sea called Rapture, and the game Bioshock itself is truly a monument to everything we are capable of as a species. We are more than capable of great feats of science, ingenuity, art, architecture, and yes, even cities under the sea. Whether we want to realize it or not, we are all gods in the chrysalis, and yet simultaneously, we are all just a few bad decisions away from becoming monsters instead. Andrew Ryan? He became a monster, and it's worth noting he didn't even need any Adam to do it. And as for my favorite author of all time, Ayn Rand, she became something of a monster herself. A monster of the mind. A dictator. In short, Ayn Rand became the very thing she hated. We are all capable of making the exact same mistakes. We are all capable of becoming monsters, and when I was a CO, I used to see this every other day, and every now and then, I too was put in a situation where I did in fact have to choose between survival and morality, and sometimes I did choose survival. So what does that say about me? What does that say about all of us? Most of us have trouble admitting it, but there is very little difference between you and me, a convicted felon serving life for murder, and a Wall Street billionaire. It all comes down to choice, the choices we make, and if there's one thing where Ayn Rand and Andrew Ryan were 100% correct, it's this. We all make choices, but in the end, our choices make us. May we all choose better. I'm Justin M. Bailey. Thank you for listening.